Hey, welcome back. Episode 4 of the War Journal. And before I start, I want to say thank you to everyone out there who has provided their insights and provided encouragement and the positive feedback that I've gotten. It means so much to me. And, I want to read one of the responses that I got from one of the listeners. Friend of mine I've known for a number of years, and he wrote, "Good stuff, Jim. You are being a good example to veterans, setting issues out there and showing it's okay to work through things, especially since so many have taken their own lives. Additionally, your amazing career in the United States Marine Corps and U.S. Navy are something to be proud of. If you don't mind me saying, you continue to show honor, courage, and commitment." Thanks, Craig. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Latz and General Toolin and a bunch of other people that I would love to, read their responses and their insights. But I want to get to the book, and I want to talk about this next episode. I want to read the passages and then talk about two specific themes that really come out throughout the book and that really have an impact on me, not only in Desert Storm, but now. And that's faith and rules of engagement. And so let me start by reading the next journal entry, December 28th, 1990. "Today we moved across this large, flat desert to a new home. Rather spacious in the open desert, we now have a 20-man tent with 23 people and their gear. Not a pleasant sight. Not to mention the fact that our sleep is so erratic these days, I don't know if I'm sleeping at night and working all day or vice versa. The only course of action is to take sleep whenever you can." Oh, by the way, I wore one of my t-shirts from Desert Storm, and I'm wearing my boonie cover. Didn't shave for a couple days to kind of really, get into character for this one. So I hope you enjoy it. So right now we had moved to Camp 15. And prior to that, we were in this was a huge staging area. It was just like a thriving metropolis. You have trucks coming in and out all the time. You have tents, you have people, you have HESCO barriers 30 feet high around the outside. Inside, is just an amazing place. PX, showers, phone center, and it was like a little city. And it was kind of like what I describe as our desert oasis. We had our tent, we had a chow hall where you go get food every day. We had fun. We were having scorpion fights and playing spades. Just doing the typical things that everybody who has been on deployment does. But we actually moved away from Camp 15, and for me, it was a wake-up call. It was really cool. It was the first time I was in the desert. You don't know what to expect. It's wide open. I didn't enjoy being in Camp 15 because although you have all these amenities, you were a sitting duck. I like to be out. I like to be on patrol. When I was in the Navy, I hated being on ship. The idea that we could get hit by an Exocet missile and sink. I wanted to be on land. I wanted a fighting chance. And this allowed us to have that fighting chance. But what it did was it exposed us to the desert. And if you have never operated in the desert, it is unrelenting. The heat, the cold, the wind, the sand, and it just is a constant source of frustration. And, you just can't escape it. So hopefully this gives you a little understanding of where we're at. We moved from this big base. We're out in the desert. Now we're operating on our own, alone and unafraid, and I'll share a couple pictures. And let's get into the next journal entry and kind of talk about what's happening. December 29th, 1990. I am awakened to the call of reveille at 05:45. Then minutes later, told I can sleep until 12:45. Great, huh? Nope. Duty takes its ugly toll again at 0700. Walking around 5 parked vehicles or 3 tents only 100 feet apart. Marine Corps logic in action again. I just returned from church, which even that has become Marine Corps orientated. After that, cutting burlap sacks to crawl through the desert and not be seen. Tonight will be spent taking the boots on a night compass course. Yeah, right. Oh, here is the ticket puncher, as the lieutenant might say. If you are standing duty, the only time you can lock and load is if a Marine's life is in immediate danger. So you better have a piece of your uniform missing if you shoot a wild dog that might be attacking you, stated the Company C gunnery sergeant. So now we're out in the open desert and we are experiencing all of these new things. We have to provide security, 24/7 security for ourselves. We can't rely upon anyone else. We are running patrols, we're standing watch, conducting training missions, maintenance, and the op tempo is really picking up. If you're not on watch, you're not doing maintenance, you're not preparing for missions, you try to find sleep, but it is really difficult. We have to set up our own fighting positions. We have to do stand down and stand to at night and day, which I'll talk about. And now the stress of combat is starting to we're starting to feel it. The other thing is we didn't have access to a church or a chaplain. What happened was a helicopter flew in, a non-denominational priest got out of the helicopter. He set up kind of like a pulpit with some MRE containers through a green camouflage thing over it, and he started to give his sermon. And I just want to read from this because I think it's a lot better. He stood behind a hastily constructed pulpit made from brown MRE cases and delivered a powerful non-denominational sermon where he talked about the righteous indignation of our mission to defeat the enemy. After the sermon, he gave communion, took confessions, and quickly departed. That was the last time I saw a chaplain during the entire deployment. I didn't have a strong faith or upbringing in religion growing up. I was raised Catholic. I was kind of forced to go to church. I went to church with my grandparents every Sunday. I went to CCD. I received the sacrament, but I didn't develop, a faith or a trust in God until later on in my life. And I didn't really pray or look towards God for salvation while I was on deployment. I had this sense that I would be okay and make it out of the war, and it wasn't because of my faith in God. And I saw how different people and their reliance on faith or their, the way they prayed or the way they looked towards God for help during the deployment and prior to the war and during the war. And I wish that I had that then. I think it would have been very helpful and useful. My reliance on faith during the custody, during the divorce and custody grew. And I really dug into my faith, which helped me. And like I said, I wish that I had that faith a little more while in Desert Storm. So let me talk about the other theme within this reading, and that's ROI, rules of engagement. I told you how, the rules of engagement for us were very prohibitive. We weren't allowed to lock and load. We weren't able to have live ammunition, in certain areas, things like that. But Desert Storm was really the first time that I encountered the term rules of engagement, which are defined as directives that delineate the circumstances and limitations under which U.S. forces will initiate and/or continue combat engagement. And what I wrote was that these rules of engagement were a constant source of frustration. They limited our ability to conduct training and exercises. We weren't allowed to do live fires. There's a lot of things that happened. And for us, we in Special Forces, in Marine Recon, we need this flexibility. We need this autonomy. It helps us operate. And, we couldn't be combat effective. We weren't allowed to chamber rounds, lock and load, and so what we did is we took this upon ourselves to kind of break the rules. And what I found was that the rules of engagement in Desert Storm, they really didn't affect us that much because the war was so quick and it ended quickly. However, I will say that my deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, rules of engagement were the greatest obstacle to our success and mission success. And I have a funny story, and I'll share a picture with you. I was in a program called the AFPAC Hands program. And that was a program where you go to language school and learn either Dari or Farsi or Urdu, and you are going to be embedded with the Afghans in whatever, either in a ministry or in a forward operating base. And for me, I enjoyed the program. I was a hand select by General Stan McChrystal, and I really thought that program would be great. And it was a program based upon counterinsurgency, which I adopted wholeheartedly, and I'll talk about that in a different episode, my transition from wanting to kill capture to actually learning FID, foreign internal defense, and COIN, counterinsurgency, and how that transition in my military career also, it was a transition in my personal life and how it helped me be a better father. But going back to the ROI, I saw how rules of engagement stopped us, prevented us, U.S. forces, from engaging with the population, winning, and how it limited our ability to conduct counter-insurgency operations and just combat operations. So I'm in theater, I'm in Afghanistan, I'm getting ready to start my tour as an AFPAC hand, and General McChrystal has us all together, and he wants to give us his little speech, his hoorah speech about how we're critical to the mission and how this program is going to revolutionize the way we do warfare and counterinsurgency. And I have known General McChrystal for a while. I worked at JSOC and SOCOM while at the Navy Irregular Warfare Office, and had a great relationship with General Mike Flynn, who was the J2 in Afghanistan. So he gets done with his hoorah speech, and I raise my hand, and he begrudgingly looks at me and says, yeah, Jim, what do you got for me? And I said, hey, sir, I just have one question. When are you going to change the ROI? Because right now I can't go off base without a buddy. I can't engage with the Afghans. I can't engage with my counterparts because of the restrictive policy and nature of the ROI in place. And by the way, sir, once you change that ROI, I'll wrap this thing up for you and turn the lights off. And he kind of smiled and laughed and said, hey, come talk to me afterwards. And I'll share a picture of him and I talking about that after the meeting. But I want to end by kind of saying there are themes that will come out in each episode of the War Journal, and those are things that are not only dealing with combat, but dealing with life. And I hope that people understand how the faith for me was very important, and I hope they can tap into their own faith to help with times of crisis or trauma or dealing with trauma. And then for the rules of engagement, I think you need to set your own boundaries in rules of engagement for whatever you're doing and stick to those. And don't be prohibited by anything, for me, like what people think about you or what people say about you or how that might affect you. Be you, do you, and be proud of who you are and what you accomplish. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the War Journal. And I really appreciate everybody's positive feedback and encouragement. It really helps me. At times I questioned whether I should do this podcast or not. And this really removes all doubt. Thanks again. Look forward to the next episode. I have a really cool theme for the next one. And please do me a favor. Help this community grow. help this message get out, not only to veterans, but to everyone who could use some positive influence in their life at this time. Anyway, thanks again. Hope you enjoyed it.